Thank you. Well, I would like to start first by saying that I didn't recognize for my job on protecting the environment at the state legislation by the League of Conservation Voters as a legislative leader and getting A+ ratings by the Sierra Club every year. And I would say that President Biden has been the most effective pro-environment president in this country. However, he definitely needs the support of the House and in order to get those ideas through. But one of the things that we have to bring to this office is accountability and transparency and use our collective power. Because what happens is the money is gonna come to the state. And when we have a Republican governor, we have to hold them accountable to make those investments as President Biden desires. So for example, when we had the infrastructure money that was in for protect the environment, to improve public transportation and investments in solar farms, the governor was sitting on that money. And so we have to call him out and tell him that that is money for infrastructure, and unfortunately, he's been using that money to patch potholes rather than protecting the environment. But when we look at the environment, in order to go 100% renewables and protect our clean air and water, and before I forget, I was the legislator who passed the landmark piece of legislation that will highlight PFOAs and PFAS, so we can protect our drinking water. It's important that we fight for 100% renewables. I was proud in order to have the successes in the legislature, not to take money from utility companies. Because if we're gonna hold them accountable, it's extremely important that we're not gonna be biased when we make those decisions.
Well, the first thing I would recommend is that we not wait until part of tidal Virginia is underwater to decide to do something. And we all know that while we have solid measures now under the Biden administration to try to control the flow of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, we also had a year in which, despite all of the Republican propaganda, we pumped more oil out of the ground than any year previously in the US. That isn't necessarily a good thing, because we need to begin that orderly transition to renewables, solar, wind, other power sources. And you, right here in Prince William, are facing part of this challenge, right? Because just as we're talking about the need to protect the climate, we're also seeing more data centers coming in, which are very power hungry. And the bottom line is that power still has to come from somewhere. And the easy default, which worries, I think, so many of us, is that it's going to be fossil fuels, and we're going to see more, not less, coal being used to generate power to supply these data centers. That's something we have to avoid. Another issue I want to mention, though, is in addition to the problems of putting these toxic gases into the atmosphere, we also have a solid waste issue. How many people want to build more trash mountains? And you see it right here in Prince William. We have it throughout the district. We've got to also come to grips with our solid waste issue, move to things that are sustainable. Because at a certain point, we're going to run out of space. I think that some of the concerns that we've seen expressed recently about the too rapid move to electric vehicles and other things that will help move us in the right direction, I think we don't need to be distracted by that, and that we do need to focus on preserving the environment and the climate while we still can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Candidate?
Thank you for that. I'll just start by saying that the actual number one sustainability issue here in Prince William County are the forever chemicals that are being leaked into our water systems. So that should be the focus here in Prince William County, which we are focused on, in which we've been working with the state, particularly with regards to the Occoquan watershed, to remediate because of some of the companies that are not data centers that have actually been flowing into our water systems. So I just want to correct the record on that. I'll also just say that in terms of my record on sustainability issues, I actually led the effort to create the Sustainability Commission, which has been in existence, I think, for a year and a half now, and also supported the effort to create the Office of Sustainability, which we have now for the first time here in Prince William County. So those are efforts that I actually have been able to be part of locally. In terms of federal legislation, we've seen the Inflation Reduction Act, which has several provisions that provide for energy tax credits that companies can use as a way to incentivize them to do more sustainability work in local communities. That's one thing that we need to make sure that we are supporting and expanding if we take Congress. In addition to that, we need to make sure that we're focusing on environmental justice. A lot of neighborhoods across the country, and even here in Prince William County, we've seen the challenges of Dominion and the work that they've done in certain parts of our districts in terms of our water quality and some of the chemicals that have been flowing through our water systems in the Potomac River. We have to focus on environmental justice and making sure that we have legislation that can prevent those type of issues, and also making sure that we're working with companies to remediate some of those issues. We know a lot more about sustainability today than we have in the past, and companies know a lot more today than they have in the past. We need to make sure that we're holding them accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate.
So I think there are two approaches. There's certainly one for national policy and international policy, but there's also a personal one. One of the things I like to enjoy doing living in this community is we have a beautiful Neabsco boardwalk, we have the Prince William National Forest, and my family spent a lot of time outdoors. One of the things that we've done with my son for years now is we've cleaned up the Neabsco boardwalk, the watershed, the swamps. So I think there's an element of personal responsibility that we actually have to model that's important. As far as national and international policy, I think we continue to support wind power, solar power, tidal power, and frankly, there's a role for nuclear power. I think clean nuclear power has advanced really dramatically over the course of the last many decades. And one of the things I was privileged to do at the White House is I was the deputy legal advisor, not only for ethics and other things, but also for emerging technology. So there is a significant role for emerging technology. We have to leverage these things. We have to make sure that we protect our environment, frankly, for our kids and grandkids. The environment and the climate is in jeopardy. We see it and feel it every passing year. So, thank you.
Candidate.
So, I think the question was what we would do in Congress. And I think that every piece of legislation that passes in Congress that has any kind of environmental impact, either directly or indirectly, needs to have standards that ensures the environment is taken into consideration. We have to do that from a federal level. We also need to fund and encourage innovation. As we become a more technologically advanced society, every one of us probably has a smartphone in our pocket. We become more reliant on data centers and technology hubs that require a vast amount of energy. Because of that, we've seen fossil fuel usage increase for the first time in decades, and we're on an upward trajectory. And the reality is that clean fuels, clean energy with modern technology cannot keep pace with the energy demands we have as a technologically advanced society. And so we have to spur and fund innovation so that private companies develop the technology that uses less energy, that makes cleaner energy more efficient, so we can stop relying on fossil fuels. If we don't do that, we're going to continue to burn through fossil fuels. We're going to continue to pump more oil out of the ground, rely on fracking and shale. So we've got to make sure that we invest in clean energy technology and encourage companies that are developing those technologies to do it in a more efficient, effective way that has a lesser impact on our environment.
Climate change is an emergency, and it is long past time for us to take some serious action. I was honored to attend President Biden's Earth Day announcement earlier this week, where he announced $7 billion that would be invested in the Solar for All program, and the launch of the American Climate Corps. With the $7 billion that was invested in the Solar for All program, $150 $50 million of that is going to come right here to the Commonwealth of Virginia to provide solar panels on the roofs of homes for residents who identify as low income or live in a particularly hard-hit community. And this will, one, not only lower their particular energy bills, but it will also provide jobs, improve the health of the community, and hope and opportunities that are essentially needed at this moment right now. But continuing on those efforts, we must invest in clean energy sources. We must reapply back into RGGI. We did so at the state level this year. The governor has vetoed that effort, and we are going to do our best to get back into that as we continue to fight for the state budget at this moment in time. And we will also continue to reduce emissions for the electric sector, and this revenue, again, is going to go back to serving those who are most in need at this time. And it will also enhance our community flood mitigation and prevention efforts, which is something that the residents of the 7th District all across it are relying upon. And Abigail Spanberger has been a big champion of, and I look forward to continuing those efforts in Congress.
Candidate.
I believe that this is an opportunity where we introduce equity as we move forward with preserving our environment and sustaining our environment. As I am working with big business like Dominion Energy in my district, I've learned so much about how we are not preserving our land and how things like coal ash has been infused in our waters and contaminated our waters and contaminated our communities. So I think when we talk about environmental sustainability, it's an opportunity for us to introduce more programs to help the community to understand what equity means as it relates to environment and sustainability. That looks like, for me, as I go to Congress, developing programs that will offer funding to preserve the community, where there are hotspots, teaching those communities that don't understand hotspots, what it means to preserve their communities. So I think it's an opportunity that we look at, because environmental sustainability, we dropped the ball on that. We dropped the ball for about 30 years on that. And so as we go to Congress, as I go to Congress, this will be an opportunity for me to partner more with my state officials, with my federal colleagues, to make sure that those programs, that funding that we have from Congress is filtered down to our communities to improve, to preserve, to clean up our waters. That's what it looks like for me as I go to Congress. And so social justice and equity and all of that, as I sit on the Council of Government Board, that is important, that we make sure that we educate our communities as we are preserving the land.